thank you. So I think we're seeing a lot of success when users are looking at the entire process chain. And in the additive industry, we have identified high-value applications for many, many years now. What we're really seeing an increase in, and what I really appreciate to see, is that we're now looking at applications that are fairly conventional. And I want to give an example. So there is an example of a drawbar, which you can imagine it's just a shaft. And the drawbar is holding together the spindle inside of a machine tool. We were able to add real benefit with additive by replacing a process chain of 6 different stations and consolidating it into a single station, into a single machine. We're using a hybrid DED machine and are able to do the entire process chain that previously took 14 days and reduced it down to 2 hours. That's a significant improvement. That's a significant ROI. How's that possible? You want to think about this shaft where previously you required roughing, you required heat treatment, chrome plating, which chrome plating is a nasty process and is actually a burden for the environment. So you want to get out of that. After chrome plating, then that whole shaft is finished ground. So you hear the process chain is complex and a lot of steps are involved. Outsourcing is involved, so your lead time gets very long. By using hybrid DED, we were able to combine that in one machine, from roughing to depositing hard coating on it and then finish grinding it in the same machine.
For me, the most interesting couple of applications just in the last 6 months, one has to do with spare parts or aftermarket parts for rail systems. We now have customers like Alstom and others that are actually manufacturing aftermarket parts because in many cases they're unable to find the original tools or molds and retrieve them, and it's kind of economically prohibited to put them on a press and run limited series injection molding. So that's a very interesting application in which speed, productivity, new generation of materials kind of really are at the heart.
Things we don't often think about in the additive industry, like if it scales to production, the process needs to be stable, it needs to be repeatable. If you run the machine 1,000 times, the same part needs to come out. If you run it across 20 machines, the same part needs to come out. It needs to be safe, extremely safe. Safety standards are very, very high. It needs to have automation. It needs to be able to go down a cost curve over time. That's something I don't think we think about enough. You know, that's what it takes to scale an application, and it's hard work. Every application is hard work. You have to understand the application much more deeply to scale it to production than you do to build a prototype. So we're pretty happy that the applications we talk about are more not the ones that additive makes possible, but the ones that really scale to thousands, hundreds of thousands of parts. You can see some of them at our booth. You can see warehouse automation robots. You can see thermal diverting valves. You can see drone parts. All of these are being printed in the hundreds or thousands, and all of them take a lot of, it's a grind. You have to work through all the issues that any manufacturing person has to work through to really deploy a process into production.
Yeah, I think the question why SMEs should get into it, I think Fried just described a wonderful reason, right? The manufacturing industry is changing lives and is making a positive impact in the world and on people, right? But we also want to consider, as an SME, there's a certain risk to it. So if you're a business owner, if you're an SME, you must be a risk taker. Every time you launch into additive manufacturing, it's essentially like starting a new business. If I'm running a machine shop today, then I know how to handle metal and chips and how to remove the chips. If I go into additive, I need to understand how to handle powders. I need to understand how to handle other peripherals. I need dedicated operators and designers. So we have to understand as an industry, if we want to be successful, we need to acknowledge also the risk that it takes to invest and go into this industry.
But look, one of our challenges is, yeah, we can do a lot of things. And Savi, you mentioned, you know, some of the incredible things that additive tools can do. But we need to shift our mindset as shapers and guides of this industry from selling boxes and capabilities to developing scalable solutions, and to do it in a way that doesn't confuse the market. And we equally need to understand the significant learning curve that comes from inducting somebody to 3D printing, and work harder to take some of the high cost, high intelligence, labor intensity away from the process, and not expose so many people to the same problem again and again and again. So shifting the mindset from selling boxes and materials to developing solutions that are scalable and proven is one thing. When you look at how more mature industries like CNC machining and injection molding and other manufacturing equipment, it's boring, Savi, right? But it's a grind, but that's how you do it, and it takes time, and it takes dedication, and it requires standards, and it requires a common set of KPIs and standards that people can understand. We don't help ourselves today because we don't all speak the same language. And we don't allow users to decipher what's going on in a way that's comparable. And some parts of the industry even close their systems, which you will never go to manufacturing, you know, with those kinds of constraints. So we need to grow up.
For comparing one system to another, one solution to another. I think that's incredibly important because you're right, it doesn't exist, you know?
Look, if we want to be grown-ups, I think we have to do it. You know, can we do it? Can we find that level of maturity and anchoring ourselves in the reality of manufacturing will be revealed. But, you know, not to say something off color. In Texas, they say, you can't piss like a puppy and run with the big dogs. So if we want to be a big dog in this industry, then we need to step up.
There is this question of workflows, but there is also the question of data integrity. We all have systems in additive manufacturing which are complicated systems with a lot of variables. And if we want to streamline the production process, we will have to make sure that we use advanced algorithms to manage all of those parameters. We use AI, for instance. And this can only be done when we have consistent data. AI is not about a lot of data. Yes, more data helps, more data make it better, but the key to success is consistent data. And so if we have to make sure that we integrate our data streams, that we create interoperability in order to control the entire additive manufacturing process, and not just in the machine, but also in the environment of the machine, because simply spoken, even most of our processes are influenced by the environmental temperature, the humidity, a lot of factors that come at play, and then I'm not talking about the pre and the post-processing. Yeah? All of that need to go into consistent data flows in order to streamline the process. And if you have to do all of that in different environments as a user, you're totally lost. So that's an important plea for joining forces and making sure that we apply the same way to use our data. Yeah.
And I can finally say that we see some of the serious biggest manufacturers of the world transforming into digital manufacturing. And they see now additive as a real solution, a very important solution for them to be resilient and to be able to progress into the next era. I do think that the collaboration between us needs to get better, Because if you think about the audience here, and especially people which are new to AM, if you go to this floor here, 80% looks the same. They don't know exactly what they need and what's the difference in the application and what's good for this and what's good for that. And sometimes all of us are very fast to sell a printer. Let's sell a solution. We recently had a few events with bigger companies that they want, okay, we need the next 7. We need a printer. No, we're not selling you a printer. If you want, let's talk about the full solution.